Good morning, everyone. I am Hershey M. Sales, and today let me introduce my campaign about the Aita Indigenous people. The title, Hinabi ng Nakaraan, Kinabukasan ng Atin, translates to Woven Past, Our Future, emphasizing that the Aita's rich cultural heritage is not just history, but an integral part of our shared Filipino culture. Alamin ng kultura, ipaglaban ang karapatan. This slogan has two connected parts. Alamin ng kultura means we must first educate ourselves about the Aita, their history, traditions, and struggles because you cannot fight for what you do not understand. Learning removes ignorance and replaces stereotypes with real understanding. Ipaglaban ng karapatan means we must turn that knowledge into action by defending their rights to ancestral lands, education, health, and self-determination. Fighting for their rights can mean speaking up against injustice, supporting their products, and using our voices to amplify theirs. The overall message is that respect and advocacy must go together. You cannot truly respect the Aita without actively defending their rights. Who are the Aita? The Aita is one of the Philippines' oldest indigenous groups. The term Negrito is an anthropological classification used for several indigenous groups across Southeast Asia with similar physical characteristics. Understanding their identity as original inhabitants of the Philippines help us appreciate their historical significance and why they deserve protection. The Aitas have short stature, dark skin, small frame with kinky hair texture, snub nose, and big black eye. So this is where the Aita communities are primarily located. They are concentrated in Central Luzon, particularly in mountainous and forested areas. The Sierra Madre mountain ranges are significant because they represent the traditional ancestral domains of the Aita. These locations are important because they show the geographical spread of Aita communities. These are areas rich in natural resources that the Aita depend on, and many of these areas are now threatened by development projects. So this explains the Aita's spiritual worldview, which blends animism, or believing spirits inhabit natural objects, with belief in a supreme being. Their rituals are deeply connected to their daily economic activities, showing how their spirituality is integrated into everyday life. The dances mentioned serve important functions. The pig hunt dances show gratitude and seek success. The shellfish gathering dances is performed by women before collecting shellfish, and the bee dance is performed by men before and after honey gathering. The dururu and ritual ng pagpapasalamat are specific ritual performances that reflect their Thanksgiving traditions. So the Aitas have significant contribution to traditional healthcare. Aita women are respected as keepers of herbal knowledge using forest plants to treat various ailments. The documentation of their practices in a national digital library is important because it preserves indigenous medical knowledge. It validates the effectiveness of traditional medicine. It ensures this knowledge is available for future research, and it provides recognition for Aita women's expertise. This is the evolution of Aita clothing from traditional to modern. Traditional attire used natural materials like bark cloth, while today they incorporate modern clothing. The transition reflects their adaptation to contemporary life while maintaining cultural identity. Scarification and tattooing are particularly significant because they serve as rites of passage or marking important life traditions. They are forms of body art that tell stories. They represent cultural identity and belonging, and the practice shows their artistry and craftsmanship. This presents the Aita's traditional and modern economic practices. The immediate return system means they gather and consume resources quickly rather than storing surplus, reflecting their direct relationship with nature. So, in gender roles in livelihood, the women weave winnows with bamboo baskets for rice and mats, and men make armlets and engage in hunting. So today's Aita have adapted to include modern occupations like peddling and farm labor, showing their resilience in changing economic conditions. So this is the linguistic diversity among Aita communities. Each Aita group has adopted the language of their Austronesian neighbors, which has evolved differently over time. This shows the Aita are not a single homogeneous group but have distinct communities. Language reflects their historical interactions with other Filipinos, and different regions have produced distinct linguistic variations. So this highlights the crucial efforts to preserve Aita languages. The Bahay Wika is significant because it is the first of its kind in the Philippines. It focuses on teaching the Aita Magbukan language to children, ensuring intergenerational transmission. It represents government and organizational support for indigenous languages. The development of a Latin-based writing system for Aita Ambala is important because it standardizes the language for education. It allows for written documentation and it makes the language accessible to learners. This presents the cultural celebrations and traditions of Aita communities. These festivals serve important purposes. They preserve cultural identity, they bring communities together, and they celebrate their connection to nature. So their traditions like pag-aanito or spiritual rituals that honor spirits and ancestors. The pamalaye or marriage traditions that strengthen community bonds. The mention of environmental stewardship emphasizes that their spiritual beliefs naturally lead to caring for the environment. They don't separate nature from spirituality. This identifies the pressing issues facing Aita communities today. Each challenge is interconnected. The land disposition is the most critical issue because when the Aita lose their land, they lose their homes, food sources, cultural practices tied to the land, and their spiritual connection to their environment. Discrimination, the Aita face prejudice due to their physical features and cultural differences. The Zambales dump site case shows how their voices are ignored in decisions affecting their land. Environmental destruction is prioritized over their rights, and they are marginalized in development planning. Other challenges create a cycle of poverty and marginalization that prevents them from fully participating in Philippine society. This presents the fundamental rights that must be protected for the Aita. These are not just abstract concepts but concrete needs. The right to ancestral domains. It is protected by the Indigenous People Rights Act of 1997, recognizes their historical ownership of their lands, and it protects them from displacement and exploitation. The right to self-determination, so this is the right to govern themselves, the right to preserve their culture and traditions, the right to make decisions affecting their communities, the right to education, the access to quality education that respects their culture, education in their own languages, education that helps them thrive in modern society while maintaining their identity, and the right to health, the access to healthcare services, recognition of their traditional medicine, and culturally appropriate health services. This is my 5-point action plan. This provides concrete actions anyone can take to support the Aita and other indigenous peoples. Learn. Knowledge is the foundation of advocacy. This includes reading books, watching documentaries, and attending seminars. So education must be ongoing, not just a one-time effort. Respect. This is about human dignity. Avoid stereotypes, mockery, or treating them as exotic. Respect means seeing them as equal with valid cultural practices. Support. Economic empowerment is crucial, so buying indigenous products provides income for communities, supports traditional crafts, reduces economic marginalization, and it shows appreciation for their artistry. Advocate. Use your platform and privilege. Social media can amplify indigenous voices and concerns. Speaking up against discrimination is a form of allyship. Protect. This is the most concrete action. Defending ancestral lands means opposing destructive development projects, supporting environmental conservation, demanding government respect for IPRA, and standing with communities facing displacement. Sa bundok at gubat sila'y nagmula, sa likas na yaman ang buhay nila'y kasa. Ang kanilang karapatan ay ating ipaglaban, ang kulturang Aita ating yakapin at igalang. This poem has 4 powerful lines. So for the line 1, it acknowledges the Aita as the original inhabitants of the Philippines, coming from the mountains and forest. For the line 2, it uses the word casa or woven to show that their lives are deeply tied to nature. Taking their land means taking their identity. For the line 3, it is a direct call for all of us to fight for their rights, using the word ating to emphasize collective responsibility. And for the line 4, it asks to embrace and honor Aita culture with dignity and respect, treating them as equals. Together, the poem sends a heartfelt message that the Aita are our fellow Filipinos and protecting them is an act of justice, not pity. My references, news articles, academic research, and official documents that inform this presentation. I encourage you to explore the sources to learn more. Before I end this presentation, remember this: Indigenous peoples are not a relic of the past. They are our contemporaries and fellow Filipinos. Protecting their rights is not about preserving history, it is about ensuring a just and diverse future for our nation. So I challenge each of you: learn, respect, support, advocate, protect. Thank you and good day.